On June 14th, there were cage fights on the White House lawn. The President of the United States walked out of the Oval Office side by side with Dana White, past a custom-built structure Trump compared to the Eiffel Tower, and watched 7 fighters try to knock each other unconscious on national television. The event lost $30 million on purpose. And that might be the smartest business move of 2026. Because the UFC was bought for $2 million in 2001. Today, it's worth over $12 billion. And the story of how it got there, through a bellhop, a podcaster who worked for free, and a president who loves cage fights, is one of the best money lessons hiding in plain sight. In 2001, the UFC was dead. Senator John McCain had called it human cockfighting. Cable companies wouldn't carry it. Sponsors wouldn't touch it. The brand was toxic. That's when the Fertitta brothers, casino owners from Las Vegas, bought the entire company for $2 million. And they hired their childhood friend, a former bellhop from a Boston hotel, to run it. That bellhop was Dana White, the guy who used to settle tip disputes at his hotel job with actual fistfights. They put him in charge of a failing fight company, and he turned it into the biggest combat sports brand on the planet. The Fertittas sold their majority stake in 2016 for $4 billion. That's a 2,000x return on a $2 million investment. Today, under TKO Group Holdings, the UFC is valued at over $12 billion. TKO shares are up 85% in the last 30 months alone. Sarah's money lesson number 1. The investments that look crazy are sometimes the ones that pay 2,000x. Not always. Most fail. But the biggest returns in history come from things other people called stupid. In 1997, Dana White asked a stand-up comedian to commentate UFC fights. The comedian said yes. He wasn't paid for the first 12 events. Not a dollar. That comedian was Joe Rogan. Today, he's worth an estimated $250 million. He earned at least $450 million from Spotify alone across 3 podcast deals. He makes roughly $2 million a year from UFC commentary and about $60 million a year from everything else. Here's what makes Rogan's story a money masterclass. He didn't build one thing. He built a portfolio of income streams. UFC gave him credibility and exposure. That exposure fed his podcast. The podcast fed his comedy tours. The tours fed his brand deals. Every stream amplified every other stream. And it all started with 12 events for free. 12 events where the payment was experience and exposure, which he then converted into $250 million. Sarah's lesson: your first job doesn't have to pay well. It has to position you well. The ROI on the right opportunity is infinite if you know how to compound it. Now let's talk about the most powerful man at the cage. Trump has been attending UFC events since the early 2000s. White's very first event as UFC president, UFC 30, in February 2001, was held at the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. When nobody else would host them, Trump said yes. White became one of Trump's most visible allies. He spoke at rallies. He was brought on stage election night 2024. And when Trump returned to the White House, one of the first cultural events he announced was a UFC fight on the South Lawn. UFC Freedom 250, June 14th, 2026. Trump's 80th birthday. America's 250th anniversary. 7 fights. 2 title bouts. All 7 ended by knockout or stoppage. Justin Gaethje dethroned Ilia Topuria in the main event. Cage aside, the president, Dana White, Joe Rogan on commentary, Conor McGregor, who had publicly volunteered to fight at the White House, was in attendance. World dignitaries who'd been invited to a White House dinner before the fights. Now here's the money part nobody talked about. Freedom 250 lost approximately $30 million. TKO's CFO confirmed it on the quarterly earnings call. Building the claw, the custom octagon structure, the security, the production on the White House grounds, all wildly expensive. But here's the twist. This was a loss leader. Intentionally. Freedom 250 was the first major UFC event under the new Paramount deal, the $7.7 billion, 7-year media rights agreement that doubled what ESPN was paying. Paramount needed this event to drive subscriptions. And it worked. It became one of the most watched MMA broadcasts in history. Even with the $30 million hit, UFC revenue for Q2 2026 climbed 29% year over year to $535.7 million. The Paramount deal alone added $64.7 million in new TV money. The loss was a marketing expense disguised as a fight card. This is exactly how Costco sells a rotisserie chicken for $4.99. They lose money on every chicken, but the chicken gets you in the store and you leave with $200 of other stuff. Freedom 250 was the UFC's rotisserie chicken. Sarah's lesson. Sometimes spending money that looks like a loss is actually the smartest investment you can make. Sarah's emergency fund earns almost nothing in interest, but it's not there to make money. It's there to protect everything else. That's a loss leader for her portfolio. So, what does the UFC story actually teach you about your money? More than you'd think. Lesson 1. Contrarian bets win biggest. The Fertittas bought a company everyone called Human Cockfighting for $2 million. Everyone thought they were insane. 25 years later, it's worth $12 billion. The investments that feel uncomfortable are often the ones with the highest upside. Sarah doesn't chase meme stocks, but she doesn't run from volatility either. Her VTI holds 3,600 companies. Some of them looked crazy when they started too. Lesson 2. Relationships are assets. White and Trump's friendship literally put UFC at the White House. Rogan's friendship with White got him into commentary, which built the audience that made his podcast possible. In finance and in life, your network compounds, just like your portfolio does. Lesson 3. Multiple income streams beat one big paycheck. Rogan doesn't depend on UFC. He doesn't depend on Spotify. He doesn't depend on comedy. Each stream feeds the others, and if one disappears, the rest survive. That's exactly what Sarah is building. Job income, plus auto invest, plus emergency fund, plus eventually a Roth IRA. Diversified, resilient. Lesson 4. Loss leaders are strategy, not failure. Freedom 250 lost 30 million. Costco loses money on chicken. Amazon lost money for 20 quarters. Sarah's emergency fund earns almost nothing. All of them are protecting or building something much bigger. The UFC was bought for $2 million and became a $12 billion empire. Your index fund costs even less to start. And compound interest is the only fighter that's never lost. Sarah's portfolio update. $3,600. Still growing. Still boring. Still working. She didn't need a White House event. She didn't need a $7.7 billion deal. She just needed one share, one auto invest, and the patience of a bear in hibernation. That's one clear money move. New videos every week. Subscribe to follow Sarah's journey. See you next time.